Have you ever wondered what it would take to outshine Dubai, the jewel of the Middle East? Well, it seems Egypt has been pondering the same, and guess what? They've got a plan. With its new administrative capital, aka NAC, Egypt is gearing up to not just compete, but set some world records of its own. But can Egypt really outdo Dubai? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into this mega plan. You may know Cairo as a bustling city, bustling to the point where it's pretty jam-packed all of the time, with the number of people living there skyrocketing to 22 million and even possibly touching 24 million in the next few years. It's becoming one heck of a busy beehive, and it's not just about the people, it's about how huge the city is. Can you imagine? It's spread over 3,000 square kilometers, making it one of the largest, most crowded urban areas in the world. All these people and this vast city, they all need to move around, right? And that's where the gridlock comes in. You might think owning a car in such a busy city could be a bit pricey, but surprisingly, it's quite the opposite in Cairo. Fuel is cheap, really cheap, thanks to some handy subsidies, making gas and diesel costs kind of a steal. This low-cost fuel, combined with relatively inexpensive car ownership, has made private vehicles a go-to for many. Back in 2000, Cairo had 1.8 million cars. Fast forward to 2012, and this number had doubled to 3.6 million, and you know what? It's expected to hit a whopping 5.2 million by 2027. So imagine, out of all the trips people take in Cairo, about 40% are in private cars. But here's the catch: these cars, although they're less than half of the trips, take up 80% of the road space. And here's another thing to consider: the state of public transport in Cairo. Now, buses are another story. Sure, they carry around 9.5 million people every day, but the bus system is as reliable as a chocolate teapot. It's old, crowded, and let's just say you wouldn't bet on it to be on time. And the roads are a bit of a headache too. Think narrow streets that haven't heard the concept of personal space, intersections that just don't seem to be enough, and parking facilities that are more mythical than actual reality. Throw in poor signage, bad lighting, and roadworks popping up more frequently than ads on a free streaming site, and you've got yourself an infrastructure nightmare. These factors all contribute to slow speeds, longer travel times, and many traffic bottlenecks. Alright. Now we've painted a picture of Cairo's congestion problem, let's dive into the real costs. And we're not just talking about money here, but about time, health, and even the environment. A World Bank study showed us that the congestion in Cairo could be draining as much as 4% of Egypt's GDP every year, a whopping $8 billion. Think about it. During peak hours, the average speed of travel is about 20 kilometers an hour. Sounds alright, until you compare it to the 60 kilometers an hour during quieter times. Your typical trip might take around 45 minutes at peak times, whereas in off-peak hours it would take you 25 minutes. So basically the city loses around 3.6 million hours every single day due to congestion. If we talk money, that's about $1.4 billion a year spent on just twiddling thumbs in traffic. Now let's get to the part that really takes your breath away, and not in a good way. The extra fuel burned by vehicles stuck in traffic releases more pollutants into Cairo's air. We're talking about stuff like particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and ozone, all of these having a nasty habit of causing respiratory problems, heart conditions, and even cutting lives short. The bill for these health costs, around $2 billion a year. Now Egypt is actually building a whole new capital city right there in the desert. This isn't just some small project either, it's about 45 kilometers or roughly 28 miles from Cairo, which is the current capital. Now, why are they doing this? Well, it's all part of a bigger plan called Egypt Vision 2030, and this plan is all about economic development, social justice, and maintaining the health of the environment. It's a bold vision for a brighter future, and the new city, known as the new administrative capital, also known as NAC, is the cornerstone of that vision. So what's going to be in the NAC? Pretty much everything you'd expect in a capital city. It's going to be the new heart of Egypt, housing the key government departments, the foreign embassies, and of course the presidential palace. It's also going to be home to the Egyptian parliament and other major institutions. The idea for this city was first announced back in 2015 by Mustafa Madbouli, who was the first housing minister back then, and he's now the prime minister, so he's got a vested interest in seeing this become a reality. The new administrative capital is going to be a real game changer, and not just because it's a brand new city in the desert. You see, it's not just about having lots of buildings, it's about what's inside them, and even what's in between them. So, picture this. A city made up of 21 residential districts and 25 dedicated districts planned to house around 6.5 million people. It's also supposed to have a massive central park, artificial lakes, loads of green spaces, and farms producing solar energy. For the students, there are going to be around 2,000 educational institutions, including a whole university just for informatics. Healthcare? They've got that covered too, with plans for 663 hospitals and clinics. They're even going to build a health city. And on the spiritual side, they're planning to construct about 1,250 mosques and churches. The city's skyline will be punctuated by an iconic tower with areas dedicated to business, diplomacy and government. And to make sure everyone can get there and move around, the NAC will have a new international airport, an electric railway to Cairo, and connections to other cities. All of this will take some pressure off Cairo, which is pretty crowded and said to get even busier. Plus, having a new capital might help to preserve Cairo's historic and cultural sites by easing the pressure of the growing population. Dubai's been on top of the world, quite literally, with the Burj Khalifa. It's an impressive sight at 828 meters tall and has been the tallest building since 2010. But you know what they say about records, they're meant to be broken. And it looks like Egypt's got its eyes on a few of those. So what's on the cards? Well, first up, they're planning to build the world's largest central park. It's going to be a whopping 10 square kilometers, and to put that in perspective, it's more than twice the size of Dubai's Zabil Park. And it doesn't stop there. They're also looking to create the world's largest artificial lakes. We're talking about a sprawling 35 square kilometers of water bodies. That's over 10 times the size of Dubai's Palm Jumeirah. But the NAC isn't just about size. It's also meant to be about sustainability. The city plans to have the world's largest solar energy farms. How large, you ask? A massive 90 square kilometers. That's over 20 times the size of Dubai's Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum solar park. Entertainment? They've got that covered too. They're planning the largest theme park in the world, 4 times the size of Disneyland in Dubai. But wait, there's more. They're building what they're calling the Iconic Tower, which is set to become the tallest tower in Africa and the second tallest in the world. It's going to be an 80-floor beauty, coming in at a cost of around $3 billion. So the Burj Khalifa might need to move over a bit. So it's pretty clear Egypt isn't just planning a new city, they're setting out to make a statement and show the world that they're ready to lead the way. And what are your thoughts on the NAC? Let us know in the comments below, and see you in the next one.